Hello everyone, and I am back after quite an extensive time away from it all. I am back and I'm ready to get going up again, and of course I'll be doing all 4 chapters. Yes, that's right, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 chapters of The Promised Neverland today in this review, just getting them all done back to back to back so that we get all caught up on them. And I have very mixed opinions about these chapters as well, but overall, aside from one chapter, I did enjoy various aspects of these chapters that actually did come out, because you got to see some different sides to the characters that you don't normally see, and also you get such an insane mind trip, like you're just confused about certain areas about what the hell is going on. Now, I know there are some people out there who are still a tad, well, I shouldn't say a tad, majorly disappointed with The Promised Neverland. Not the guys in particular being Controlled Chaos, and I am friends with those guys. We talk on Discord and we have different disagreements on the actual series itself. I mean, I still enjoy it, even though I'm enjoying Dr. Stone more than The Promised Neverland. I know that's kind of like what's the word? Sacrilegious, yeah, that's it, that's the word I was looking for, sacrilegious to say that. But yeah, I am enjoying Dr. Stone a lot more than The Promised Neverland nowadays. Now, I'm still enjoying Promised Neverland, it's one of the reasons why I'm going to be talking about it today, but I just can't wait to, once we finish We Neverland, I can't wait to just get clambering into Dr. Stone. And it's obviously the favourite. It's obviously the favourite out of all of them, because if you look at, say, Promised Neverland, We Neverland, and Dr. Stone's getting more episodes adapted than We Neverland and Promised Neverland. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they'll be able to do it justice this time, and I won't have much to complain about in terms of like what's the difference between the anime and the manga. And from what I've seen from the trailer so far, it looks like they're doing a fantastic job. All the characters sound like how they sound. I mean, Tsukasa is kind of like a bit like, not really sure about it, but funny thing is that he's actually being voiced by the same guy who voices Moomin Rider in One Punch Man, and I just find that hilarious how one of the weaker members of One Punch Man's cast is actually playing the strongest character in Dr. Stone physically and the main antagonist. I just find that hilarious. But anyway, that's for another day. For now, let's just get right into these chapters. Alright, to start things off, we were talking about chapter 134, titled Lost Boy. Now, this chapter is not very good, I will say. Now, the only things that are good in the chapter are the bits at the beginning, which when I first saw this, I was like, what? What's going on? But now that I've seen all the chapters afterwards, it makes much more sense now. But when this first came out, I was like, what? And then, even more so, as I was going through the chapter and I got to the end, I was like, wait, that's it? And we're on break again next week? So that was kind of like why I didn't do this chapter initially, because there wouldn't have been much to talk about. So it was a very lackluster chapter, this one, and having a week's break, that kind of like just that chapter just kind of like made me feel like sort of melancholy, in the sense like, do I really want to do this chapter? Do I really want to do it? But now that I've saved it for a while and I've got the bulk of these chapters to talk about, I reckon I can get a lot out from this review. And yes, even I can criticise the series when it is due to be criticised. This chapter is easily the worst chapter of The Promised Neverland, by far the worst one I've seen. Just because it just gave you nothing, and it felt like it could have just been easily just cut out completely. And we didn't really need it, but it's here now, so I'm going to talk about it. Alright, so the chapter starts off in a desolate landscape. If you recall from the last chapter, as Emma and Ray went into the door where they actually have to go through the sort of like purgatory that they're in, sort of, to get to the demon god and to get to the seven walls. It was kind of like a wasteland, with the only exception being Grace-filled house being in pristine condition, but as we soon found out, there was a lot more of a mind fuckery about it, and this actually picks up with it with someone going, I just don't understand any of this, and the captain going, the one wandering off is, and we get it blank as they go on to say, what is this place? What year is it now? So this is obviously a reference to the fact that that where they are right now, it can warp their sense of reality and the sense of perception of time. Because if you remember when they were in Gracefield House, Gracefield House was sort of like messing about with them, with having Emma and Ray sort of like turn younger and younger and younger and younger, and just messing about with their mind about who is changing, who is staying the same, and all of this. And they continue on to say, what is this place? What year is it now? Emma. Hey Emma, and then we just see like this, and then we just see like a gun with like Emma's cloth, just on its own, which obviously means that this person that's talking now is Ray, this is why I said this was like, as I was reading this, it's like, okay, what is going on here? What is really going on here? Because I doubt they would have killed off Emma at this point. If they were going to kill off Emma, they would have done it a lot sooner. And I feel like if anyone is going to die, it's going to be Norman at the end. If any of the main characters are going to die, it's going to be Norman. But anyway, Ray goes on as he thinks, I just wonder how much time has passed since then. I see, so she's gone now, huh? And then we see Ray going questioning like, who am I, and the captain saying, doomed to wander this deserted world, as we see Ray looking a lot older and looking a lot more like how Hugo looked. If you actually compare both Hugo and Ray at this age, I would say like they're very similar looking. That again just hammers in the fact that they could have just done something. I don't know if they're actually going to go through with this, but making Hugo Ray's uncle, because they actually do look like it, and they actually have a similar like this imagination that's flowing through them. It's obviously the world just messing about with Ray at this point, but yeah, just this imagination of what could potentially happen if Emma wasn't there, and how Ray could fall into depression as well. And we see just him having that similar depressive attitude that Hugo had when he lost everyone, to the point that he was going to commit suicide. And hopefully one day I will get a chance to talk about Hugo and Lucas again, since we found out all about them and how much of a tragedy those two actually went through, and how they had similar parallels to Emma and Ray and Norman when they were living in Grand Valley. It was either Glory Bell or Grand Valley, I believe. Them two were from. I'm pretty sure it was Glory Bell. But anyway, yeah, I see that this is quite interesting, and this was the only part of the chapter that I was interested in. Everything else, we'll get into it now. So anyway, continuing on, it actually goes into a flashback. Now, I don't know if this is a flashback from the perspective of the older Ray, or if it's just like a flashback to kind of get the audience up to speed. But anyway, I digress. They go on. The Demon King goes on to say, "Try to find me. The 7 walls are inside here." As we see like this basement area below the area where which is represented by Gracefield House, and Emma and Ray climb into the basement area, and they're like, after the house it's the shelter. Oh my god. Okay, I did not realise this at first, but okay, now it makes a whole lot of sense. Like, I didn't pay much attention to this actual speech, but because I was just like so bamboozled by the fact of what's about to occur. I was just like not really paying attention. But okay, so it's kind of like this area sort of like going through like every aspect of their lives, like every area that they've actually been through, from Gracefield House to the shelter to Goldie Pond, back to the shelter, and everything like that. And it's sort of like giving them sort of like a nostalgic trip, while also playing around with them and messing about with their minds. But anyway, continuing on, they go on to say, but the number of doors is different. So this as well is part of the Demon King's fun game. as Emma goes on to say, there was something about making the walls become visible, was them? In that legend we heard about from the pen cap that Mr. Minerva left for us. So again, I really like this, as it's calling back to events that were set up previously, but are actually having payoff in the final arc, which is something that I feel like people have actually missed out, particularly the guys that control chaos. I respectfully disagree with their opinion that yes, in terms of a casual read, if you find like the series has gone downhill, I totally understand that. It's just a casual read, but if you actually look at the bigger picture and the broader scope, you can see like, okay, events that were set up in the first arc or the first few arcs are actually being paid off in the final arc, and like everything is being connected to this final arc. I find that really interesting, and looking back on this chapter, it's kind of like made me have an eye opener for this chapter when I thought it was just a complete waste. But no, actually it does have some important things to say. Whether or not you agree with how important they are, that's up to you, but personally for me, I find them important. And this is what I love talking about the series, how I'm able to like go back and look at, or talk about any series, I'm able to go back and look at it and see things differently that I didn't see the first time. And that's what I love talking about these series, and why I keep doing these videos the way I keep doing them, and also to comment with people whenever they do comment with me. I really love that about that, and I really love the fact that I get a chance to just stand up here and just be in front of a camera and just sort of like let loose with myself and say what I want to say about the chapter, because outside of the camera, I can be extremely shy. I can not really say a lot of things, but that doesn't mean I'm not listening to people. But anyway, besides that, I digress. They go on to say, in the eye of the Kutafana dragon, I still won't be able to pronounce that word. No matter how many times I think of it, I still won't be able to pronounce that word. You are to search for the day and night. First 10 ri towards the north. Now I don't know what ri actually means. Could it be 10 miles or 10 kilometers? I don't know about that. Somebody comment below or contact me and tell me what ri actually means. Then 10 ri towards the east, then 10 ri towards the south, then 10 ri towards the west, 10 ri towards the sky, and 10 ri towards the earth. When the arrows are in the sand, when the arrows in the sand cease and the sun sets in the east, the earth will carry out and the wall will become visible. Okay, so it's kind of like so what it's saying is you gotta go north, east, then south, and then west, and then look up, and then I think it's like you've got to sort of like look up towards the sky, and then towards like down to the earth, and see like all the arrows sort of like position themselves where you are actually standing, and that's where the walls become visible. So it's as Ray goes on to say, if the conditions are met, the wall will appear, as he questions this. And Emma goes on to say, I'm sure that by solving that riddle we'll get out of here, and then we'll be able to meet the Demon King. As Ray is kind of sceptical about this, as he says, I guess so, and I can understand Ray's skepticism about this, because it seems like it's kind of convoluted, and really it's something that, can this actually work, and is the Demon King someone we can actually trust? Which I'm still going to be like, I don't think like you can trust the Demon King all the way. But anyway, continuing on, they go on to say, in this situation, first head to 10 ri north. Okay, so they're in this area and they've got like head on north, and then maybe the area will actually change in coherence with how their actions are going to be taken, to actually give them an idea of where they actually have to go to meet the Demon King. Maybe that's how it's gonna go down. And then Ray goes on to say, what should we do? As Emma goes, first, for the time being, do you want to try going into the north and restore the compass? I wonder if we can use it here. I don't think you can, because I feel like it's all going to be off, Emma. And you're not sort of like how in One Piece, where you had to have a special log post to actually navigate the ground line. I feel like this is sort of like going to be the similar thing. I feel like you can't rely on that compass in the same way that you would normally rely on a compass. But anyway, continuing on. Emma goes on to say, it seems the same as the shelter. Going north leads to this door. As they enter a computer room that's sort of like upside down. Well, they're on the ceiling, and then the computer room's sort of like up there, up there. So it's like, if they're looking down, they're actually looking at the ceiling, so they have to actually look up there. As they go on to say, this 10 recap is leading nowhere again. And then they go on to say the monitor room, up, down, and reverse. It's like we're walking on the ceiling. I know I just said that. And they go on to say, be on guard. Yeah, we need to take care not to separate. Of course they're going to get separated when they say stuff like that. But that's a cliche. That's a common cliche, and we just have to live with it. But anyway, continuing on, Ray thinks to himself and says, I was expecting something to happen, but nothing, her. Kind of like the understatement of this chapter, like nothing actually does happen. It's just sort of Emma and Ray going through all of these navigational directions, trying to figure out this riddle, and trying to figure out a way of actually to get to the Demon King himself. But anyway, Ray suggests that they go back to the hallway and check out all the rooms, as Emma agrees with him, and they continue to go around all the hallways and all the rooms as something grabs Emma's attention as she goes, the dining room. It was the hallway just a second ago, and this time the wall is the floor. Now, this actually reminded me of the films Grave Encounters, of the Grave Encounters films, where you had the hospital, where you had like the paranormal team just sort of like in this hospital, and it kind of like was playing mind games with them, like making sure the corridors don't actually lead to the exit. So like if they actually try to get through the exit, if you've seen Grave Encounters, you know what I'm talking about, like Grave Encounters or Grave Encounters 2, you know what I'm talking about. When they try to get to the exit and they actually push the exit open, it just leads to another corridor. It doesn't lead to the outside. It doesn't lead to the outside world. Despite the fact that that's the door they actually came through. And similar thing in Grave Encounters 2, where they actually thought that they got out of the hotel, out of the hospital, and they actually made it to the hotel room. And when they actually got into an elevator, it just made them be back in the hospital again. And it's something similar that's happening here, how it's kind of like sort of helping them, but at the same time it's having a little bit of fun with them and playing mind games with them and seeing if they're actually going to crack under this pressure. At least that's what I'm seeing from all of this. They continue on as they continue walking through various areas as wait a second, is that a flower? Oh my god, after... Okay guys, let me just see here. Oh my god, that's one of the flowers that's on one of the flowers that's on the wall. That's painted on the wall. So it... Oh my god. Okay guys, okay. So after they talk about the dining room on the floor and the wall and all of this, you actually see one of the flowers that is part of the ritual to operate the Goompa and get the blood drained, so that's a sacrifice for the Demon King. Oh my god, I did not notice that when I first read this chapter, so that's a fine little detail that I didn't notice. And looking back on this chapter, that kind of like that's kind of like made me feel happy that I actually found something that I thought I couldn't find beforehand. But anyway, continuing on, they continue to be like confused about all the different areas and everything before finding their way back to Emma finds her way back to another door which leads back to the dining room, but it's sort of like on its side, while Emma's kind of like on her side, and she goes on to say the monitor room again, but it's different from how it just was. Every time we open or close the door, it connects to a different room. It was the same back at the house, so meeting is up with this space. It's like a labyrinth. As Emma comes to a realization, and she says, Ray, and she goes on to say, Ray goes on to say the monitor room, but there wasn't an arrow there before. As they notice an arrow, and as they notice an arrow that's like pointing to a certain direction. So again, I feel like it's sort of like testing them, but at the same time it's trying to guide them and have a little bit of fun at the same time. The Demon King with this whole labyrinth situation that it's got set up for them. Anyway, continue on. They go on to say, let's play, huh? Let's go. To solve this mystery, we need to get our bearings here first. as the caption goes, it's just the beginning of the darkness. And they go on to say, at that time, I thought I could solve it. The mystery, that labyrinth, I thought I could win against the darkness from that ceiling mural. And that's where the chapter ends. So yeah, this chapter was really short in the long run. But again, it had some interesting things. And looking back on this chapter, I actually spotted some things that I didn't think I would spot the first time coming. But yeah, 10 pages long, I was kind of like disappointed. I thought it was a really lacklustre chapter at the beginning, but now I see it in a different light, and it's still lacklustre. It's still the worst chapter of the Promised Neverland, but at least it gave me more to talk about in this review portion. But anyway, let's just get on to chapter 135, because that's where we come back to Norman and everyone and find out what's going on with them. Alright, so this will be chapter 135, titled A Search, and the reference to the title of this chapter is actually in the cover page, where we see Songju and Musica, and the caption goes, "Beyond lies a ray of hope searching for you." So again, this is obviously a reference to the fact that Musica is the blood maiden that allows everyone to that allows the demons to actually maintain their form without actually having to eat humans, and you can see why they would actually want that kind of power for themselves. And it's about everybody just trying to get to her before the other side can, and actually save her, kill her, or capture her, whichever comes first. But again, like I said before, what I'm loving about these chapters is kind of like going back to things that were set up before, kind of like put on the back burner, but actually being brought to the forefront in the final arc, because this was one of the questions that we needed to find out exactly before the series ended. Like, what's the deal with Songju and Musica? And I really want to see that battle with Songju and that demon that was actually set up, but never really actually went anywhere. But anyway, continuing on, it starts off in Norman's office with Norman asking Don and Gilda to track down Sonju and Musica. And again, I love this as seeing how Don and Gilda are sort of like the major secondary characters, and it's kind of great that they're getting a chapter focused on them and actually seeing, like, okay, where their loyalties lie and what their thoughts actually are, as opposed to it just being Emma, Ray and Norman. Of course, them three are like the centerpieces of the series, but it's nice to actually get perspectives from the other characters as well and see what their viewpoints are. And the caption says, "The mission entrusted to them is to track down their friends," as Don goes on to say, "Both of us," and Norman confirms that this is the case. "Before the Atari clan and Royals gets them, I would like you to locate and safeguard them." And this actually gets Don raising eyebrows, because Norman was so adamant about destroying all the demons, no matter who they were, just like eradicating all of them. And now all of a sudden he's like, okay, I want you to safeguard these two demons. Like, what's going on here? As Don questions him, Norman explains, if Emma's plan, the cursed blood is required. If Emma doesn't make it back in time and I end up exterminating the Royals and Aristocrats, we won't have a choice but to count on Songju and Musica. But of course, if you actually go back and look at this chapter, you can see the like unsureness in Don and Gilda's eyes, saying like, yeah, something's up here. Like, Norman is not letting out everything that he wants to let out. And I love this about him. I love how it's kind of like they've been influenced by events around them just as much as Emma and Ray have, and how they're not, and how they can be just as suspicious as well about certain aspects and certain situations, and think like, yeah, this doesn't fit right, and we actually see something differently here. But anyway, Norman goes on to continue saying, "I still don't know whether to accept Emma's plan, but if they are captured by the Royals and the Ratari clan, Musica and Sonju will be killed. And to me as well, I would like to hold back any factors of anxiety. If we're able to lure them over to our side with a discussion, I'd like to do so. You both are old friends with them," as he goes on to say, "It's possible." But of course, Gilda actually sees this as well, more so than Don, because she can see just like the anger in Norman's face here. It's like, you better do what I say or else. And you can actually see the sweat dripping off her face, and I can only imagine what she's thinking like that. Like, Norman, what's going into, and it would be really great to actually follow up on this scene more so if Don and Gilda actually did find Songju and Musica and actually have a discussion with them in private about certain aspects. I'm thinking like maybe it's not a good idea for you to actually go to Norman because there may be something else that's up with him, and obviously there is, because Norman, despite everything, despite what Emma and Ray and everyone has actually said, he's going to be playing like a god and a devil, and he's kind of like with Emma, kind of like one thing goes wrong and he could just snap at any moment, at any time, based on what has happened through the experiments through Lambda. Now, speaking of that, there was actually a comment I saw on the Chaos Controls Discord by one of the admins where he said like where it's actually been confirmed how old Sassy actually is, and he's actually 5 years old, despite being in a big brewing body. Now, they thought that was absolutely ridiculous, but I see it from a different perspective. I see it from the perspective of like mentally he's 5 years old, so he's a child in a grown man's body. That's how I see it, probably due from the experiments in Lambda, but we'll just have to wait and see about that. So that's what I wanted to say on that situation as well before we actually move on. But yeah, I could just see like the sweat dripping off Gilda's face and thinking like, this isn't right here. This isn't right, and she's about to speak up, but Don steps in. And he from her actually speaking up against it, because he doesn't know what would actually happen if Gilda was actually going to speak against Norman. So he's like, okay, I'm going to save you for your sake, and I'm going to ask a question calmly and effectively, which he goes on to say. But it's been almost 2 years. Just how do we? And before Don can even finish his question, Norman gets arm up. It's like, look at this. I've marked the places that they are most likely to pass through. The Royal Army's base of investigation in each of the demon settlements and cities. These should be the places that they avoid crossing first of all, which again does make sense, because the demons, because they're not safe anywhere, Songju and Musica, and they have to constantly be on the move and everything, and those would be the places that they would be the least likely to go to, because if everyone is after them, they wouldn't want to go to a highly populated area and get themselves captured or even possibly killed by either the demons or the Atari clan. And Norman goes on to say, after that, the places where demons commoners cannot usually get close to, a dense forest and a steep mountain trail. These are consumed impure and are warded off as taboo, which are taboo areas, which under such applications the royal family prohibits entering into. And Gilda sort of like gets an idea ahead, like, right, this is the place where we met Songju and Musica. And wait a minute, was it? Holy shit, it actually was. That was the place that they actually met Songju and Musica. That big forest area. So that big forest area is sort of like cut off from common demon folk. It's like, don't go in there. That's like so dense and so welded that you could get yourself killed at any moment. So the royal family actually made that a taboo area to prevent demons from actually getting themselves killed should the situation arise from that. And Norman goes on to say, it's because the surrounding of Gracefield are also one of those off-limit areas. These are the other settlements hidden from the royal family. Underground tunnels, caves, escapes paths that they could use to hide easily due to the terrain. I've investigated all of that together and narrowed down a few spots where they are likely to be hiding. As Gilda questions Norman's decree of like, he's really narrowed it down. Don goes on to say, then they should be around these points, as Norman smiles, but he gives off a smile of like sinister smile, like that sinister smirk, like that sinister smirk. That's the smirk he gives off, and he's like, I think it's a possibility. How those chased down will flee. We who were chased down the same way before. The same way know it best. Sorry, that was kind of hard to get out in one breath, but let me try again. How those chased down will flee. We who were chased down the same way know it best. Wait, why does Norman know that? Oh wait, it's probably because Emma told him at some point that that's how they escaped, and how they actually met Sungju and Musica. But that was kind of like a. Or no, it might be his team where he was actually liberating all the farms to actually get that army of the orphans onto his side and into his cause. Whatever the case, it's kind of confusing how Norman actually just brought up out of the blue. Like, how did he know that? But then again, he's Norman. He's smart. He can figure out anything. He goes on to say, "I would like you to find out where they are before anyone else. Of course, I'll provide you an escort. Can I ask you to handle it?" Norman awaits their answer, Dawn and Gilda look as though they're about to sweat their pants, because Norman just gives off at this point this intimidating vibe, because he's like going ahead with his plan of to eradicate demons by causing a demon civil war on their side, but it could also lead to a human civil war on their side as well, and it could lead to all-out war, Royal Rumble. Try saying that 3 times fast. War Royal Rumble. Anyway, Norman goes on to ask them, "What do you think?" Dawn asks Gilda what she thinks. Gilda asks Dawn what he thinks. Sorry about that, guys. Gilda asks Dawn what he thinks, and he's like, "What do you mean, Norman? He intends to kill Sungju. He intends to kill Musica and Sungju, doesn't he?" Yeah, I kind of saw that, and I kind of knew that they actually saw that themselves, and it was quite interesting to actually see them actually get that vibe from Norman in the same way that I got that vibe. It's like, you're not really going to hide them. You're just going to kill them yourselves, because then that way the demons don't have a way of actually regenerating after that point. As Dawn and Gilda question Norman's motives, they flash back to all the times that Norman and Emma were having those disagreements about what to do about Sungju and Musica, as they flash back and say, "We have no choice but to track them down and kill them." And Emma goes, "They're our friends, our saviours, there's no way I'm killing them." And Norman's like, "But they're demons too," and begging with Emma to actually see his point of view. Dawn goes on to say, "True. If we actually catch them successfully, he might reconsider, but otherwise we'll just be used for the purpose of luring out and finding Sungju and Musica like bait," as they flash back and say, as Norman asks, "Can you handle this?" And they're like, "Got it." But of course, as they're hugging Norman, they're looking at each other like, this isn't right. Yeah, I know this isn't right. Norman wouldn't be actually thinking about this, because he's actually so fundamentally fixated on killing demons. It doesn't matter what they say, nothing will change him about that fact, no matter if they're friends or foes. It just doesn't matter to him at this point. And they go on to say, "But questioning him would just be sidestepping. He could have just searched and killed them without us, right? In that case, let's believe his story. We have to search for Musica and Sungju by ourselves and protect them." And again, this is what I suspected for them to actually do. Like, they're going to actually find them and be like, "Don't go there. You are just going to get killed like you'll get killed there. We are going to protect you." And whoever they bring along, they might actually see it that way, see that not all demons are bad. And you can actually have a civil conversation with them without the thought of them actually ripping you to shreds and killing them. Although with Songju, with the way he was proclaiming he can't wait to sink his teeth into flesh again, that might kind of like get Dawn and Gilda actually thinking about whether they really should have truly trusted demons. So we'll have to wait and see about that. But they continue on and say, yeah, as they get ready to get packed and go off. And I really wish it was more than just Hattori, because it's Hattori that's actually going with them to actually find Sundry and Musica. I really wish it was more of them, because then we could have gone over different sides and perspectives, rather than just being just one perspective. But again, what I love about this is like it's giving time focus to more side characters, as opposed to the three main characters, the three leading characters of the series, and it's just being all of them all the time, and actually giving them some focus and time to actually shine and develop in their own way. And I love how Dawn and Gilda in this chapter were able to, despite going along with Norman, were able to pick up exactly what he's actually thinking. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to use these two to find them, and then just going to use them as bait to lure them out and find them and kill them myself. But they were having none of that. Like, no, we're going to actually protect them. But anyway, continuing on, Hattori's like, let's go. So the escort was Hayate, her. Even Hayate, yeah? Hayate's going to be their escort. I get how you feel, but you should stay quiet about that. As he goes on to say, no, if it was only me, it wouldn't be an escort. And Gillian and Violet are like, he admits himself it's with someone else, and this is where we get, oh my god, I actually forgot about this character. So yeah, it's been so long that I actually forgot about this character. So we see another character who's surrounded by dogs and doesn't actually talk themselves. And this character, now that I've actually remembered them, I can actually talk about this character. Is really fascinating, like one of the most fascinating characters I've seen. As we see them going dogs, it's our first time seeing them, so again they're probably not used to seeing well, actually they aren't used to seeing real animals, like real proper animals, in the same way that we would see them in the series up close and personal. They go on to say, it's your escort, I see. She's a skilled gunman, and her dogs are master of self-tracking. And as Dawn and Gilda go to introduce themselves, ISC is like not speaking to them, sort of like acting very cold and very stoic, and like not really paying much attention to them. And she's as Hattori goes, even if you talk, it doesn't reach her. And she's like, as Gilda's like, by chance did she grow up in Lamberder too? And Hattori confirms that no. She's a special case. As we get a flashback of Barbara and Cecilo just rushing through a facility, possibly tracking down and killing lots of demons at this point. They go to say, "Wait, jerk, Sassy!" As Sassy opens up more rooms, and just slashes a bunch of demons. As we see them find ISC going, "How terrible! It's okay. Now you're going to be okay." And then we see her just talking the demon language, and this is actually an eye opener for how fascinating it actually is. And she's so scared and so terrified that she can't even approach those humans, because as Dawn goes on to say, she was kept by a demon, so a demon actually raised her instead of killing her. Like, it's so very easy could it actually raised her, so she sees herself as demon and not as actual human, and that's kind of like an interesting aspect and an interesting concept of this series that hasn't really been touched upon. The idea of demons actually adopting humans as opposed to killing them, and vice versa, humans adopting demons and not killing them at the same time. That's kind of interesting, and I really wish they'd done more aspects with that, because this I feel like this actually reminds me of from what I've seen from War from the Planet of the Apes, like the little girl that was actually sort of like being raised by the apes. I believe that's how it went down. But yeah, it's something similar to that. It's something similar that's happening here, and I really love that about this series. And it's gonna bring into question of is it right to actually kill this race, because they've brought themselves into this world and established themselves as a living race and show that they are capable of looking after humans and raising them, as opposed to actually eating them themselves and actually teaching them the ways of the demons. So again, what I love about this is that it paints a very grey area. It's like, where do you draw the line here? Yes, there are some demons that are just out to cause death and destruction, but at the same time there could be other demons that are just out there just to have peace and just to raise a family. And I feel like this is actually going to come into play later on in the arc, with Icy sort of like being the catalyst to show like demons and humans can live together side by side without actually hunting one or the other. Hattori goes on to say, yes, in the off limits forest, then she was saved by the boss and our comrades. As we see Norman in his William Minerva gown just approach her and sort of like take her in, and they go on to fake, a girl who was kept by demons understands their language, hates them,
and is extremely contempt. Are Sungju and Musica going to be killed by her? Oh, okay, so yeah, see, this is kind of like got me thinking. It's like, is she actually going to kill these demons? Does she actually hate them in the same way the humans hate her? Because, well, no. Okay, so she wasn't. Okay, so she wasn't. Okay, so she actually was. She was raised by humans, but not in the. She was raised by demons, but actually kept more as a pet rather than an actual human being. Okay, so I can see why she would actually be having that established revenge against the demons for basically keeping her as a slave. But again, it shows a grey area of like, can demons actually care for humans, or not even care for humans, but sort of like raise them to be part of their society as opposed to actually killing them. And that's a really interesting concept that I really hope that they bring up more in the future. But anyway, continuing on. They think about Norman. About what he's actually said, and they're like, as if we'd let you. So again, it's like, okay, they're actually going to find Sundry and Musica and not actually tell Norman anything about them, and protect them themselves. And again, this is setting up for what I believe will be the demon civil war as opposed to the human civil war, about and just like a war Royal Rumble that's about to take place in the series. And Norman can actually see this as he's looking out over the balcony, and he sees in his eyes, like, okay, I know that they're not gonna play by the rules, but I have to make them think that I don't know what they actually know, and all of that. As Dawn and Gilda go on to think, for our sake, for the sake of Musica and Sonju, for the sake of Emma and Ray, and for your sake too, Norman. They go, as they all prepare to leave, they're like, let's go. I don't want to let Norman sacrifice himself ever again. Please help him however you can. Dawn thinks back on that flashback, on that declaration that Emma made to them, and he's like, Emma, Ray, you don't need to worry. Everything here will be. Before we actually cut back to see Emma and Ray in that certain situation, we see a baby Emma and like grown up Ray, and him thinking, damn it, as we get on a journey of suffering with no end in sight. And that's where the chapter ends. So this chapter really made up for the last chapter, and actually helped to bring some questions about the greyness of this world. Like, yes, there are humans that are being kept more as pets, but at the same time, they're being fed, they're being taught the way of the demons, and being seen if they can actually be converted to their side as opposed to the human side. And I see that as a really interesting concept that I really wish they will expand upon. And maybe there are more humans like I see who were actually raised by the demons or kept as pets by the demons to be like these vicious creatures that could actually hunt humans for them. So again, I'd really like to see much more about that as we go on. But for now, let's get into chapter 136. Oh, and something else I forgot to say before we get into chapter 136 is that ISC kind of reminds me of Reptalia from Rising of the Shield Hero, which, by the way, I have been watching and I have been enjoying. And Reptalia's backstory, oh my word, that was dark and depressing. I'm still deciding whether that's more dark and depressing than Minty and Nanachu from Made in Abyss. Yeah, I'm still deciding on that. Oh, that was quite depressing. But yeah, it kind of reminded me of that, but for the other way around, how a non-human creature was sort of like sold into slavery. It's sort of like the same thing with Icy here, how a human creature was like brought up basically as a slave to the demons, but brought up in a way to that brought up to actually understand their culture and sort of like, I think, fight for them. I feel like that's the notion that they were actually going for with her, but now she's more animal than human at this point. So it'll be interesting to see what actually comes of her in the future. But for now, let's get on to chapter 136, titled Maze. Obviously, this is going back to the labyrinth-like feature of the last few chapters, with Emma and Ray being in that Grace Fjord, sort of like purgatory, and just trying to navigate to the Demon King himself. So the chapter starts off with a colour page of Emma in like this sort of like of Emma in that in like Norman's society set up like a giant side that's everyone else is like chibi around her, and it's sort of like how she's the Gulliver's in Gulliver's Travel to everyone else, and as it goes on to say, the family is waiting back at the secret paradise. And then we see another cover page where we see like just rain dropping down and everybody having umbrellas containing their numbers on it, and I feel like this actually setting the mood of this chapter to actually be a little bit more depressing than what it actually is. But anyway, continuing on, we pick up with Emma and Ray at the shelter still, as they're still walking around trying to figure out everything that's going on at the moment, and then wondering. And then wondering if the arrows are actually going to lead them to the Demon King, as it says, let's play, as we see them going again like here, going through the various elements or the various destinations or locations on their travel. So now they're at like remnants of Goldie Pond, like the sort of like the sky is sort of like a line from one area to the next, and the sort of and a ladder, and the sort of like climbing on that ladder past that windmill at Goldie Pond, before they go on to say before they go on to say, let's play again. Like, it just keeps saying, let's play all over again. Sorry for a second, guys, if I stumble for a bit there. I'm just trying to keep up with my laptop because it's going a little bit slow at the moment. So hopefully it'll pick up speed and I won't have these technical issues. Okay, it seems to be back in working order. As they go on and continue following hours, all we get is let's play. As they appear to be back in the monitor room again, sort of like on its side. Whether this is a clue or not, that remains to be seen. As they themselves get frustrated about this place again. How many times has it been? Before Ray goes on to say, no, Emma and I have been counting how many. There have been 32 monitor rooms with arrows, and we've been through a monitor room 154 times in total. It's a maze. I love how Ray was like that focused on how much they actually were, that he had it down to a T. He's like, okay, how many times have we passed this? Must be like 154 times right now that we've been past the same area. So again, it might be the monitor room that's sort of like the area that they actually have to go in, and I know that's probably not the case because of what happens in the next few chapters, but again, that's probably going to be the biggest clue of them if they want to actually get to the Demon King themselves, something to do with monitors. They go on to say, we keep appearing in the same place, but all the rooms are slightly different, as we get another dose of just mindfuckery as we see the rooms just like spiraling out of control, seeing flashbacks from various horrific moments, like what Hugo had actually sketched in that wall in that dormitory, like poachers, Lucas, Diana, all those names, basically all the names of his friends that had actually died in Goldie Pond. And it's nice to actually see these locations again, since God forbid it's been so friggin' long since we've actually seen glimpses of them. But anyway, on one of the roofs in Goldie Pond, there's another arrow as they continue to say the rooms where we connect back to are random every time. Even if we follow the same directions and the same conditions, we come out the same somewhere different. There's no rhyme or reason here. Even now, I can't see any clues that could lead us to the situation, and it's not just this space that is not nonsensical. Time is too. Even the laws of physics are, as we see Ray just transform back into a kid. And again, this will come into play in the next chapter, but this is kind of like the Demon King just sort of telling them, like, okay, you have to think about what's happening to you and how you can actually overcome it, because this is the only way that you are actually going to be able to find me, as Emma figures out in the next chapter. But anyway, continuing on, as Emma is stunned by the fact that Ray has turned into a child, they go on to say, even last thing about this place is unstable. It's a complete mess. Damn it. Just what is this place? And as Ray gets his composure together and we see him back to normal size, he goes on to say, all of this chaos, there's no way this world is following quantum mechanics. Even if that's the case, is this an illusion, a dream? No, I can't. No, I can deteriorate between dreams and reality, and this is no dream. No, it's sort of like playing with your mind, Ray. So you've got to like think logically, like, okay, what is actually going on? What's the key things that are happening here? We're sort of like going around in circles, almost sort of like we're going in a time loop, and that's going to be the big clue here. Like going around in circles, growing younger, growing older, almost like you're sort of like flickering through a time loop over and over again for various parts of your life. Think about it, Ray. That's going to be the clue that you're going to need to get out of this certain situation. As Ray concludes that he must be being toyed with, him and Emma decide to take a little bit of a break. As Emma goes on to say, hey, so the Demon King is able to do something like this. I wonder just how he does this in the first place. As Ray is like, really? You're asking that question as if I know the answer to this, Emma. I'm just as confused as you about this whole situation. So how am I going to know the answer to this? You're meant to be as smart as me. So how do you expect me to answer this question if I don't know myself? If I'm just as confused as you, Emma? And she's like, he seems oddly annoyed, and who wouldn't be? They've been going around in circles for what must be like 2 hours now, just trying to figure out this whole maze as well, and that would drive anybody insane. It's like when you play a game and you're like, okay, I think I know how to defeat this really hard boss now. But even then, even after you've like grinded so many levels and you still can't be beaten by it, and you can't actually figure out. No, better yet is when you're actually in this complicated labyrinth like Death Mountain thing. Like I'm playing Final Fantasy VI at the moment, and I'm loving every moment of it. But sometimes when those bosses come up, and I'm like, okay, I think I know how to defeat these bosses without receiving so much damage, I still get my ass whooped. I'm like, how do I defeat this? It's the same frustration that Ray's having at this moment in time, so I can empathise with him at this point. But anyway, he goes on to say, however, I realised something. The true form of the seven walls. First, head 10 ray north, then head 10 ray east, then 10 ray south, and 10 ray west. Then 10 ray to the sky and 10 ray towards the earth. When the hours in the sand cease and the sun sets in the east, the earth will cry and the walls will become visible. That's the division between him and us, the seven walls. Okay, so it's kind of like they've got to get through this whole labyrinth and follow certain coordinates at the precise moment when the sun sets and all aligned. That's when the seven walls are going to become visible to you. So it's all about. I feel like when the sun actually sets, because if certain situations are not followed precisely to the letter, then they're just obviously going to go around in circles, and it's going to be backpedaling again and again and again. That's the impression that I feel like I'm getting, although I could be wrong as we go through these chapters, or as we go through these particular panels of this particular chapter. Continuing on, they go on to say, Ray goes on to say, if they're all the same distance, won't you just end up back in the same spot? No. Toma actually brings this up as we go into a flashback of him saying, if they're all the same distance, won't you just end up back in the same spot? And we flash back to Norman saying the seven walls, a place like that doesn't exist. And Ray questions, it probably isn't something like that. The division between him and us, the maze is a place where the Demon King can transcend where whatever he pleases to make a space where we won't be able to pass him. Space, as Emma goes, space and time, yeah. If you think back to that mark we saw at the temple, we can use it as a hint. As we see the temple where they actually were at in that demon city way back at the beginning of the arc. They're like a cube and a hourglass. East, west, north, south, sky, earth. With those you can make a cube, and then when the hour's in the sand is where the time stands still. The second half of the riddle pertains to time. Front and back, left and right, top and bottom, those 6 sides of the cube combined with the factor of time. Okay, so Okay, so again, it's sort of like how I was saying before with Grave of Cowards, how it's kind of like the Demon King is like warping their perception of space and time as well. So like it may think like they're making progress, but it's the exact opposite, and they're going round in circles, and it's just a game to him, and whether or not they complete this game in his eyes remains to be seen. Continuing on, Ray goes on to say, with those, he regulates the world and creates these physical walls. Okay, so they're more like physical. Okay, so going on with what I've just said, they're more like physical boundaries to prevent them from actually reaching the Demon King and just being like, let's play forever. Come on, let's play forever. Let's play a game forever. As Ray goes on to say, space-time itself is the physical limit, or at least we can assume that much. That is the true form of the seven walls. So they're more like, so again, like I said, they're more like barriers, and it's kind of like how they're overcome these barriers or these obstacles in order to reach the Demon King. As Emma gets really gets a sense of anxiety about this, she goes on to say, but if that's the case, what about the walls will become visible part? Just what will appear and how? If the seven walls have its own space and time, then crossing the walls would mean transcending its space-time. To get out of this maze, we would need to pass through space-time. And yeah, this actually gets Emma confusing, because I doubt she's had to do that much thinking on the spot before, or at least in this certain situation, and it just makes her so confused about space, time, space. Like, how are we going to get to these walls? How are we going to get to... it's driving me insane. How do we even do that? As Ray goes, I have no idea. When the hours in the sand cease and the sun sets in the east, that is probably telling us that we need to stop in time and go back. Now, go back will actually come into play a little bit later on, in a way that I don't think Ray was expecting. But continuing on, he says, but stopping or going back in time isn't something us humans can do. Ray, have you been paying attention? You have been turning into a child. That is going to be your biggest clue. At least I hope that's the case. That's going to be the biggest clue. But he goes on to say, and even if we could, I'm not sure how we would cross the walls that appear. I have some guesses about how the seven walls might work, but I'm not sure what the best way to narrow them down would be. And this gets Emma a little bit anxious, as she goes on to say, he's right, what we should do. He's right, what should we do? How can we escape the maze? What should we do to cross the seven walls and reach the Demon King where he is at? As Ray just gets like fed up with this whole situation, he's like, damn it, even if we don't find something quick and get out of here, we won't make it in time to stop Norman's plan. And again, I love that's how always in the back of their mind, like, we've got to get to this to the Demon King to forge this new promise. Although even if they make it to the Demon King, that would probably not be something that'll be easy to convince. It'll probably be like how in Power Rangers Mystic Force, where they had to get a wish, a genius wish referred to. They were kind of by going to a tribunal, they were kind of dicks about it, and they were like, go home. It's probably going to be a certain similar situation to this, to that as well. Anyway, Ray goes on to say, and what's more, the more lost we get in this maze, the stranger our senses are getting. If we relax, we'll lose track of where we are at. Where am I? What am I? What is real? What is a dream? As his head sort of like starts to hurt from just overthink, from a sense of different emotions coming through, from relaxing but also getting stressed at the same time. There's no end to this. My head is starting to feel weird, and as they continue moving through this maze, Emma goes, the rooms have until now been different, and then we see them go through a wardrobe, and they're at a desert, and they're like, a desert. We finally came out into a place we haven't seen before. When the arrows in the sand cease and the sun sets in the east, Emma thinks about that part of the riddle, and she's like, this place has sand and the sun stopping. She goes, stopping time and going back. If we do that here, we can and Ray goes, we can solve it here, but how? Emma points out what she's actually been what she actually thinks might actually be beneficial to them, and she's like, for now, let's try shooting an arrow into that sandstorm. And Ray agrees with her and saying, and if that doesn't work, let's systematically test out more ways. As we see Emma just get caught up in like sort of like a typhoon, and this sort of like gets Ray thinking. I think he might be having flashbacks to when she actually got captured and taken to Goldie Pond, and he goes, "Not again," and Emma's like, "Ray, I can't stop." As Emma is transformed into a baby, and Ray's like, "Oh, get a hold of yourself! Damn it, let's go back into that room where we were before." But as Ray goes to actually get back into the room, where Emma's body sort of disintegrates into puzzle pieces, and again, this is a big clue to what's actually going to come. This is actually symbolic of the fact that they're in a puzzle. They're in a giant puzzle, and it's hard to solve, and they have to keep actually moving forward. And this might actually be a reference to the opening of the anime, where Emma, Ray, and Norman were just smashing through puzzle pieces. Because again, it's a big puzzle game, this whole series, and they have to kind of like put the pieces of the puzzle together. But anyway, continuing on. As Emma disintegrates, Ray gets really depressed, and he's like, "Emma, even if I search, I won't find her here." As we see him just age up continuously based on the area he is, and we see these figurines just like emerge in front of him, before he continues on to go. So that's it. The 6 Sealing Mules, the last painting of the day and night. There weren't any demons in it. Until then, there were demons drawn on them. No one has managed to make it. They all got lost in the maze, forgotten themselves, and faded into obscurity. Okay, so these are probably what Ray's thinking about. Like these demons actually tried to get to this maze to try and forge a new promise with the demon, but they all failed, and he feels like he's actually going to fail himself, as he says, "All of you two are shadows from your former selves. Who am I?" As he starts to question who he actually is, because the maze actually affects your mind and your perception of space and time. So he's sort of like getting to being in that decrepit old state and thinking like, who am I? Am I losing my memory? Am I losing my mind? Am I losing my will to live? And he goes, "I'm sorry, Emma, Norman, it's all over for me." Who is that? Who am I? Who are they? And before Ray actually gives up, Emma, as a young child, just pops out from the wardrobe, and she's like, "Ray, I might have figured it out," and that's where the chapter ends. So okay, this chapter was like really just like the other chapters that involved Emma and Ray was just like a big mind fuck. It's like, oh, these chapters make my brain hurt just like thinking about how this actually convoluted method to actually get to the. Although what I love about it is like it's so convoluted that nobody would dare try it. If you actually think about it, that's actually a good point. Nobody would dare try this because it's so convoluted and so difficult to actually get to the Demon King that it's borderline impossible because of all these little distractions and all these boundaries that have been set up to prevent new promises being forged by the Demon Society. So again, I gotta give them credit. It's certainly making me think like, maybe it would be best not to actually interfere with the status quo. But anyway, we've got one more chapter to get to, so let's get right to it. Alright, so this will be chapter 137. Finally caught up on the series now, and this is titled Transformation. Now, I don't know what the significance of the title is. I've tried to work that out from the past few days since this chapter was out, but if anybody can let me know about that, or if I find out in the chapter, that would be really grateful. But anyway, let's get right into it. Alright, so we jump back in time a little bit as we see Ray going, "It's over for me. Sorry, Emma, Norman." Huh? Who? As we see him just as a decrepit old man on the floor. Although this might actually be a reference to the fact that they just go back and forward in terms of aging up or aging down, both Emma and Ray. That might be what the title actually suggests, as we see just like these demonoid figures just like scrambling around Ray. But anyway, continuing on, we see Emma from the last chapter just pop out of the wardrobe going, "Ray, I think I figured it out." Ray is just like about 90 years old in this panel. He looks so old and so grey that he's about to like actually his heart probably is about to stop from just a sense of like it's gotten tired and decided that it's worn out too much. As he goes on to say, what do you say? Who are you again? As Emma's like, what? Have you actually forgotten me? And she just smacks him across the face. He's like, get a hold of yourself, old man. It's just funny when that happens, when you have someone like some really petite little one just like, pull yourself together, and actually being the one to talk sense in this situation. And then we see Ray is actually back to normal, like he's snapped out of his stupor, and she's like, and he's like, Emma, the real one, but they're like, yes, the real one. So he's like, Emma, the real one, yes, the real one. And she's like, I figured it out. It was exactly like you said, Ray. The seven walls are the space and time that this place is a mess, and that the key is our mind. And he's like, what? Our mind. So again, it's so again, like I've been saying, it's sort of like their minds playing tricks on them and making them believe things that they don't want to believe. But at the same time, it makes it plausible for them to believe. So it's kind of like the world go deep into their subconscious about, is it possible? Am I giving up, or something like that? Emma will explain in a minute. And she goes on to say, okay, I'll lay it down step by step. First, the place is space, time, it's chaos, it's unstable, right? And Ray says, yeah. And those scenes line up with things we know about. Well, this place is linked with our consciousness, both consciously and unconsciously. And Ray sort of like actually gets what Emma's saying. And she goes to say, in other words, our consciousness is intervening, and this is a place where that can actually happen. As Ray goes, what? And Emma continues on to say, the point is that it turns out to be dependent on our mind. We just haven't noticed it. But this place can do that. In this maze, we can transcend the space-time of the walls. As Ray's like, hey, wait a second. For that kind of jumbled up hypnosis, what's the basis? And Emma goes on to say, I don't have one. And this actually just gets Ray just like frustrated again. It's like, you were on a roll there, Emma, and then you just actually stumble with that. I don't know. Come on, you can do better than that. But anyway, she continues on to say, but we kind of do. It's just a bit ago. I was able to rewind time if I thought about it strong enough and became smaller, though I couldn't seem to stop it. Think about it. Why did you turn into an old man and then turn back into normal? As Ray thinks, the trigger is my consciousness. So again, it's sort of like the world that they're actually in. Whatever they desire, whatever they're thinking deep down or concentrating on, does actually come into fruition. And so Ray was about to give up and just drop dead at that point when he saw Emma just like fading away right before his eyes. It's like, it's hopeless, it's useless, and he's like, he was starting, his conscience was just like, let me just die in peace. I've given up. I can't go on anymore. And it was only Emma just like snapping him out of his stupor, like, come on, Ray, concentrate, think carefully. You're smarter than that, so think logically about what is actually going on here. As Ray goes on to say, but we've never seen a desert like this before, you know. And he's like, no. All of it was a produce of our latest consciousness. Again, and he thinks back in a flashback to going, again, there's no way we can go to Tenri because we were searching for a large place, and because the legend talked about sands as well. Thinking about it, each time we were getting younger or older, our clothes and luggage were changing as well. And he questions all of this. As Emma goes on to say, the reason we were lost all along was because, not understanding and getting tangled up in it, we weren't able to completely comprehend this place. That is the true form of this place. Okay, so they have to just think calmly and logically, even if it is messing with their minds about, and just think like, okay, we are going to do this, we are going to get through this, and actually get themselves pumped up to actually thinking that they can actually do this. That's the only way that from what I'm reading here, that's the only way I feel like they can actually get to the Seven Walls, but we'll continue on and see if that's actually the case. Continuing on, Ray, is it Ray? No, it's Emma. Emma goes on to say, and it will surely show itself if we stop time and rewrite it. That's going to be what the walls, that's got to be what the walls will become visible means. And Ray, she goes on to say, hey, we can do this, believe and imagine. Now let's stop a bit of time and rewind. Ray's like thinking, it all depends on our conscience. It depends on yourself. With just one thought, the world changes, even in these circumstances. And Ray, as he appears to be the same age as Emma when they were younger, he's like, you really are a weirdo. We're all a bit weird, Ray. That's one thing that you've got to get in life. We're all a bit weird, but dag nabbit, they're your sibling. She's your sibling, and she actually helped you get out of this certain situation. As we see him smiling by going, you're really a weirdo, but I love you for it, Emma. And I love that, like, you got to see all different sides of Ray's character. You got to see like his giving up side, or his emotional stress side, and then you get to see like really cheery and happy, but at the same time really jokingly as well. Like, you're a really weirdo, Emma. As Emma goes on to just smile at that and say, but it's worth trying out, right? And she goes on to say, when I was a kid, I didn't even think about what was or wasn't impossible. And again, that's actually true, because if you look back at before the series started, Emma was really much more cheerful and didn't actually really think about the bigger picture until she actually got that wake up call when she actually saw Connie's corpse and saw that the world wasn't as how it was built up for them to be, and it actually opened up her ideas to the possibility. And I feel like at the same time, when they actually were able to escape, it opened up Ray's eyes to the impossible as well, rather than just thinking like the world is just this way and we just got to deal with it. They go on. Emma goes on to say, "Remember it, the sensation from back then. I can do it. Believe from the bottom of my heart, without a single doubt. Stop and go back." As we see, like just everything sort of like dissipate as they, as is it. From what I've seen, I can't actually make out from this image, but from what I can see right now, it seems like, it seems like Ray is at. Oh yeah, here we go. I might be able to figure it out more if we can actually get down to that point, guys. See, from okay, here we go. Yeah, so they're actually thinking back, and we see how Ray's cloak and backpack have sort of like disintegrated, or sort of like him forming into a like childlike figure as he's holding hands with Emma. Like his cloak and backpack are sort of like floating on top of her, as they're thinking back on that time when they were a child, and they were in a place where it was just a case of like we can't understand the impossible and the unimpossible and stuff like that. And it was really clever how they got around this. How it wasn't how in order to overcome the Demon King's mind games, they had to actually really concentrate and not be distracted in the science, and actually not have those shred of doubts, because that's what this world did to them. It's like any thoughts that entered their minds, that's exactly what was actually going to appear deep down in their subconscious, and they had to like actually get that under control if they wanted to actually survive in this maze in order to find the Demon King and the demon and the Seven Walls and forge a new promise. Although, like I've been saying, I don't think it's going to be as simple as that. I feel like they're out of the wood. I feel like they're out of the frying pan, but they're not out of the fire yet. As they both are continually concentrating by holding hands with each other and thinking of the one thing that they actually want to get to in this place. We see the sun actually setting, and we see the world around them actually changing and warping to another situation. And as they open their eyes, they're both back to normal, and they're in sort of like this cube. They're in sort of like this cube space, which again is a reference to the riddle, in the fact that the Seven Walls are an actual cube itself. And Ray's like, it's changing. It's true form. This could be it. A cube with sides 10 Ray long. 10 Ray long. And he's like, and Ray's like, we really did it. So it really is our consciousness that interfered with this with this space. So again, it was kind of like their mind was just basically screwing around with them in combination with what the Demon King actually was doing with them. So again, it was sort of like a test to see if they were actually worthy or if they were actually going to get lost in the maze and not actually figure it out. And I haven't read this bit here because it was just so long and it was just Ray mumbling to himself. So I'm gonna actually read it here. Ray goes on to say, if that is so, the consciousness is energy as well. But before that, that means the door from back then was the entrance to a higher dimensional wall, higher dimensional world. No, that's not so impossible in the first place. There's something that's coming up with his mumble word, and I don't know if that's going to play a part later on in the arc. But anyway, continuing on, there's part in something like his words just get like jumbled up as he goes on to recite certain things pertaining to quantum world, double suit experiments, and ridiculous things, but it's so long and not all the text is actually shown. It's sort of bubbling out with his mumbles, and even Emma gives like that weird like, I have no idea what he's talking about right here. He's talking so fast, and I'll be interested to see when if the anime actually gets this far, how they're actually gonna phrase this. But anyway, guys. Bottom line is that Ray's questioning like all the possibilities of like what their conscience could actually do. Like, could it actually send them to a higher dimensional world or something like that? But anyway, he stops his mumbling and freaking Emma out as he notices something and says, "Oi, look, hey Emma, could it be that the Demon King is a hole?" As we see, just a black hole. And again, if you remember, guys, when Emma was in that world with the Demon King and sort of like that dragon thing, it was sort of like a blind void space. So this could possibly be the entrance to that place. We don't actually know yet, and we might actually find out in the next chapter. But I believe that is the last you see of Emma and Ray in this chapter, as we now shift back to the other escapees in Norman's society. Coming back, we see that Barbara and Cecilo are actually training the others, particularly Oliver, Zach, Nigel, Gillian, and a few of the other kids that have been recruited. So like the Gracefield House kids and other like Grand Family kids, Glory Bell kids, all of them being trained by them as they're doing target practice, and they're going, yeah, all good. We expect nothing less of the escapees of that hunting ground. And Vincent relays this to Norman, going, really, all of them have received magnificent training. They will become a greater combat force than we imagined. As he's confirming with Norman. And I really like Vincent's outfit. It's sort of like really businesslike. Got like a zebra pattern, and that's probably in nature. That's probably a reference in nature to his to how he sees the world as just being black and white at this point, without having any grey areas in between. Or maybe I'm looking into that way too much. But as he says that to Norman is just looking off into the distance and going, yes, but there are simply logistical support. More importantly, what of Gaiman's motives? If you don't remember, Gaiman was the large monstrosity demon that forged a pact with Norman to help take down the Royals. However way they were actually going to do that. Vincent goes on to say everything is going as smoothly as planned, and the preparations for that, can we use it, is what Norman actually questions him on. And he's like, I think it should be ready in time. As we see a bunch of beings that are like Adam, that have been experimented on from Lambda, like are just like big monstrosities, and we see horses as well. And Norman goes, in that case, we'll make a move too. Our aim is the royal capital, March. As we see Norman Norman, Sassy, and Barbara, and all these like Adam clone things charging off into battle to infiltrate the capital, and that's where the chapter ends. So there we go, guys. All 4 chapters talked about, discussed, reviewed, whatever. We've finally caught up on the series. Now, like I said, Chapter 134 was the worst chapter, but looking back on it, it wasn't as bad as I initially thought, even though, compared to the other chapters, it did fall a little bit flat. But all in all, these chapters, Emma and Ray trying to get through this actual maze was really good, even though I feel like a few more people could have actually been there. It would have been interesting to see how it would have all played out then, if someone would have actually just completely gone lost in the maze, and how that would have affected Emma's consciousness. But anyway, it seems like we're moving into the final stages now, guys. It seems like the lines being drawn, and the battle plans are being thought out, and the wars are about to begin. However, the way they're going to go down, that's anybody's guess. But anyway, lines being drawn, allegiances have been forged, friendships are going to be tested, hopefully, fingers crossed. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say, guys. So, what did you think of these chapters? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. We Neverland video will be coming out this week as well, hopefully on Thursday. And this will be Lash and Luke signing off. Later, guys.